Right, education seems to be all over the agenda tonight. We're talking about whether teachers should get tougher, getting stricter with pupils, because that's what the Education Secretary, Michael Gove, wants. But what about another story? What about testing them from the age of 4? Now, newspaper reports today claim the government is looking at bringing in compulsory national tests within weeks of children starting primary school in England. The idea is that it gives teachers and parents a better sense of a child's progress. But critics say they are already testing kids too much, and 4 is far too young to test a child's ability. Parents and teachers, obviously we're looking for you to get in touch with us tonight. 0500 909 693, the text 85058. Sonia Poulton is a broadcast writer and social commentator. Hello, Sonia.
How are you, Stephen?
I'm doing okay, thank you. And Anna May Mangan, writer and mother of 4. Hello, Anna May.
Oh, hi, Stephen.
Sonia, where do you stand with this? Testing at 4?
I think it's utterly deplorable. I mean, you know, as you said at the top of the story, they are already being tested. And when my daughter was at primary school, I gave her the option to leave when SATs came up because I thought it was just utterly pointless. Didn't agree with it. The idea of testing 4 and 5-year-olds when really they should be encouraging creative play is abhorrent to me.
Anna May?
Oh, well, I don't think you can start soon enough. I mean, obviously, you start at the beginning, and as soon as you hand them over to school and they're not in your home, then the school has responsibility to assess where they are, not for comparing them or standardising them, but so they can offer, or we can offer as parents, any help that they might need. And the only way to do that is to find out what they do need, and that involves the word assessment.
One of the newspapers today is suggesting that the kids after the results, age 4, might actually be grouped based on their ability at 4 years of age, Hannah May.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think at a very early stage, and there's a bit of a hysterical reaction to this, but I mean, nobody is suggesting, I'm sure, that they're going to sit in a hall at tables and be tested. It's going to be very discreet, very informal, and it's going to be useful. And it's not. But
they would still then be grouped, as in split up, depending on their ability. Is that right?
I mean, there are some children who need a lot of extra help for various reasons, because they're very, very bright, gifted and talented, or they're not. And really, is it ever too soon to start doing that in some ways and in some subjects? I mean, for example, have you ever played, can I just finish, a game of tennis or ping pong with someone who's a lot better or a lot worse than you? It's really boring, and a lot of children do switch off in school because they are bored.
Yeah, they also, that's exactly why they switch off. And part of it is because the curriculum is designed by politicians as opposed to people who actually understand the education of children. And the idea that you say they can't start soon enough really horrifies me, because, I mean, look, you only have to look at Scandinavian countries. They don't start children in education until 7. And by the age of 9, those children are on par with children in the UK. Of course, we're starting them too early. We have to allow for creative play. You know, whatever happened to a childhood? I mean, we can clearly see that they're making an absolute mess.
I don't think anyone's suggesting that they don't have fun and they don't enjoy learning. In fact, that's part of the problem, that being clever or learning is not considered to be smart or cool. And why can't it be really enjoyable?
It can be. Nothing to do with that. I mean, the thing is, you clearly have a very sort of mainstream education attitude. I don't. I'm a firm believer in the strength of home education, if anything, in all reality.
Well, that's fine. If you opt out, then of course you can do exactly what you like. But if your child is sat in a class with 30 others, then the only way they're ever going to make progress is if it to be standardised and for it to move forward.
That is absolutely not true. Do you know the origins of the education system? The origins of the education system was created in order to stock the factories. It's really not about being clever. It's about one size.
Hang on a minute. I've got 4 kids who all went through the state education system and who chose to do things that if they didn't have the qualifications they got at school, state school, they wouldn't have had a choice to do what they did. Education is currency in this world, and unless you're going to step out and live in a yurt, you really have to be educated.
I mean, I have to say that's quite an appalling attitude, because there are many people who are doing an incredible job home educating, and they aren't then winding up the rest of their lives in a yurt or a tent or anything else. There are many people I know who have been through the home education system, who are running banks, who are running high-powered companies. So you're stereotyping this whole idea.
No, I just think it's a niche, isn't it? It's not for everybody.
Of course it's not for everybody, but you know what? If you gave children a choice of, do you want to be enrolled in a system which stifles your or creativity, which is what mainstream education does. Most children would say no.
Well, hold on. We're getting off on a tangent here. We're not talking about home education, the education in school. Here's what we are talking about, though, because there's so much territory for us to focus on here. For example, do you think that parents, pushy parents, the likes of parents, and look, I'm not saying it's wrong or right to be pushy, not for me to say, but the type of parent that wants to get a tutor when their kids are coming up to their A levels, to their GCSEs, and they're trying to get their kids ahead, are they going to start buying tutors for their 3-year-olds to get them ready for the 4-year-old test?
No,
is that what we're heading towards here?
I tell you what they might do, which might be useful. These testing
that would be useful, would it, Sonia?
No, of course it wouldn't. I mean, I saw children when my daughter was at primary school, and these were 7-year-old children who were apoplectic. They were being sent for these enrichment before, their fats and everything. It was absolutely awful way of dealing with children.
Oh, I think that it might be a fillip to the parents to introduce this early testing, because I know this September, in some of the schools in my neighbourhood, kids went in, they weren't toilet trained, they weren't able to feed themselves. So if parents knew that their children were going to be looked at, then they just might do a bit more with them, help them hold a pencil, help them form letters, which is no bad thing. Kids are sponges. Well, why not start early with them?
Yes, but why not start early with expanding their expression, their artistic endeavours, all of those things?
Why can you not do both, Sylvia? I'm sorry, Sonia.
Not from the age of 4. I would abandon reception classes from the get-go anyway. It's just not needed. What children need is to be able to run free, not be sat down where there are 30 children who are trying to get the attention of one teacher and one learning support worker. It's absolutely ridiculous system. And you want them to be indoctrinated earlier? Come on, Dad, we need to step back, look at what's really taking place. They're going to be even more pliable. I mean, this is what is happening within that system. It's about making people much more pliable when they're adults. And me, I have an attitude of, let's let children run free. Let's let them discover who they are.
Yeah, my parents went to school in Ireland barefoot when they were running free, and they all left school when they were 13, entirely uneducated, and they longed for an education. So this running free stuff, I don't even understand what you mean by that.
Well, I mean,
is it the same as running amok?
No, it's not the same as running amok. Do you know what? I can absolutely see why you think this is a good idea, because your thinking is so conventional. Perhaps what you need to do is look outside that box, look at other ways of educating our world. Let's look at creating critical thinkers, not people who just learn by rote and do what is expected of them in a very mainstream, conventional way. Let's stop testing. The only thing testing does is show you how good somebody is at being tested. It has no sort of relevance in terms of intelligence. We know that now about testing. Most people can be taught to test.
So, Sonia, would you get rid of all public exams and measures of intelligence then, and parents' evenings and all of that?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as parents' evenings and all of that. I mean, that sounds a bit extreme. But what I would do is, I think more parents should step back a bit and say, what does my child want from life? Not what's convenient for me.
Well, I think the majority of children would say
the door.
Pizza and telly would be what most kids would say they want. So
really?
You can't possibly ask them.
Well, then I'm sorry. Then I think you're underestimating children, because I gave my daughter as free rein as I humanly could, and she was home educated. No, wait a second. Just back off a second. I'm not your children now.
How old was she?
Deep and down my neck. How old was she when?
When you gave her free rein?
Well, from a very early age, I let her know that she had options and choices. I let her know that while still guiding her, absolutely. But when she finished primary school education, I just thought, this is a ridiculous system. They're just, being taught, they're basically being de-educated. And so I took her out of school for 2 years, home educated her, brought her up to a standard of like serious creative writing and with her maths. And she chose, after those 2 years, to go back into mainstream education herself. She chose. And I've said to her repeatedly, you can come out of school at any time you want. She's spent the last 6 years at a brilliant stage school. She gets tremendous results because she is interested in learning.
I feel like singing a folk song, Sonia.
Oh, do you know what? I do feel sorry for you. There's no need for this. We're supposed to be having a conversation, but clearly,
hold on. You're the one who told me I was conventional because I send my children to state school. I didn't have the choice to allow them to be at home. I had to work.
That isn't why I say you're conventional. I say you're conventional because of your attitude. Your attitude is conventional. Nothing to do with you sending them to state school. But you know it is anyway. I don't need to tell you that, and I don't need to convince you. You know it is. But
Well,
that's not the point.
it's a shame you weren't a teacher. You'd be very good for the telling off bits.
Oh, I mean, Stephen, can you see what I'm dealing with here? I mean, I'm talking about raising up a conversation, and Anna wants to do what mainstream education does, and
It's
that is
Anna May, Sonia. Anna May.
Really, honestly, I don't want to get into some kind of slanging match with you. I don't know you. I've been asked to come on here and explain exactly why I think it's completely wrong.
You just said I'm conventional. You must know something about me.
Well, you are conventional. Your attitude is conventional. You're saying this is what children need, and they can't get started earlier. That sounds terribly
testing children
conventional.
at 4 is not torturing them. It's a good and purposeful way to proceed in the state education system.
Well, good for you for thinking that. Let's see if your children agree with you when they're 30 and reliving their childhood on a psychiatrist's couch.
If you two don't stop, I'm going to put you into the Big Brother house.
Oh, thanks very much for that, Stephen. I appreciate that.
Now, tell me this, just before, and by the way, big subject this, if you do want to pick up the phone, 0500 909 693, how would you feel about your 4-year-old being tested? Compulsory national tests within weeks of children starting primary school in England. This is what some newspaper reports have been suggesting will happen. These are the newspaper reports today. This story is kind of being superseded, if you like, with the more prominent education story. And just before you two go, Sonia and Anna May, I'd like your views on this as well, because the Sunday newspapers tomorrow are plastered with Michael Gove, the Education Secretary, lots of education stories around, including Michael Gove suggesting that teachers should get tougher on children and should punish those kids who are misbehaving in school a lot harsher. Now, Sonia, what do you think?
I think that Michael Gove is the single worst thing to happen to education since Ed Balls. He's utterly clueless, knows nothing at all. We need to take education out of the hands of the politicians, put it back into the hands of the educators. That's what I think. And I tell you the other thing that they want to do is...
Would you stop beating around the bush, please, and just say it as it is?
Yeah, well, Michael Gove is just awful, really, really awful. And part of it goes back to his own childhood and the issues he had. And it seems like he's now, exacting this sort of revenge on other children.
Well, hold on a minute. That's a bit below the belt, isn't it? What he's actually doing here is he's looking at a lot of the statistics, which, some
statistics, though, Stephen.
Oh, well, come on, though. Let's have a look at some of the stats. We've had 3,600 primary school children expelled in the last 5 years. We have hundreds of kids every day excluded from schools for abuse or assault on adults or other children. Something needs to be done.
Listen, what we need to do is we need to start treating people as individuals rather than as if they're being formed and created for factory purposes. And the truth is, a lot of those stats are absolutely wrong. Look at that case today.
They're not wrong.
The little 6-year-old boy today who's been told that he will be permanently excluded. Why? Because he took cheddars in his lunchbox. So that is the kind of nonsense rules that are being created by politicians like Michael Gove.
That was a school, by the way, that was trying to put rules into their school about healthy eating. Anna May, what do you think?
I think that when there's 30 children in a class, which state schools have, and most of us have no other choice but to educate our children there, that the biggest right that our children have is not to have their education disrupted by other kids, and that teachers have a very, very hard job managing that, and they need as much support and help as they can to see that doesn't happen. And we specifically chose schools for our children in as much as state parents can choose, that we knew that they would come down hard on the disrupted children.
Tell you what,
my kids would have the opportunity to learn.
Why don't you two stay with us for another few minutes and you can help us with the callers tonight.
All right,
so what the Education Secretary, just to set this out if you're just joining us on 5 Live, the Education Secretary, Michael Gove, has told The Sun on Sunday that he wants teachers to get tough on bad behaviour and ignore what he describes as the human rights brigade when it comes to dishing out punishments to children. Now, that's a harsh, tough approach. Is that what's needed? 0500 909 693. David in Reading, you're a school governor. What do you think?
Good evening, Steve. What do I think? They're a bit feisty, aren't they, those two? Don't you remember them?
You wouldn't take them on up a dark entry, David, would you?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure where you go with that one, Steve. No, I think that there are big issues around discipline in schools. I mean, I was the governor of a large 1,500, 11 to 16 secondary school, not actually in Reading, I have to say. What is happening is that although there is we call it low-level disruption, and it is true that it's very, very hard for these for teachers to get on top of that, and it does seriously disrupt learning.
So, do you support what Gove is saying?
Well,
making kids pick up litter, get them to clean up graffiti, give them more lines, get tough on them.
It is true that there are very, very limited sanctions available to teachers. You can remove the child out of the classroom, and then you can next level up if you like. You can put them into an exclusion room. But these are, to be honest with you, those are sanctions that work for a child who is occasionally disruptive, and it just brings them to their senses.
What's the downside, David? Thank you. What's the downside, Sonia, to getting tough on kids?
Well, the downside is, first of all, you crush their spirit, obviously. But the thing is, what on earth are we doing piling 30 children into a classroom to stifle them in the way that we are? So we need to start looking at what we're doing as adults. It's really wrong to have so many children with so little individual one-on-one attention for a teacher. Let me just say this. When my daughter was at primary school, rather than sit around and bitch and whinge that it was all wrong, I did go in there. Every Tuesday, I gave up my working day to go in every Tuesday, and I sat down and read individually with the children in my daughter's class, because I realised they were not getting the attention they needed.
We had the lawyer and commentator Nick Freeman on earlier, who was calling for this to go a stage even further than what Gove's talking about, not more lines and more detentions and picking up litter as punishments. He wants corporal punishment brought back in.
I'm just surprised he didn't say, let's start sending them back up the chimney, because that's what these people are doing, and they are these people. They're like aliens. They come from a different planet to us. Well, I swear to you they do.
Well, James in Stoke-on-Trent, you're in favour of corporal punishment, right? Hello, James.
Hello, Stephen. Yes, I'm 100% behind Michael Gove, and I agree with corporal punishment, yes.
Tell me why.
Well, back in 1953, when I went to school, primary school, I was from the age of 6 till the age of 12. I was given 6 of the best every day. The best being a leather strap, 2 foot long, 1.5 inches wide, and a 1/2 inch thick with a split up the middle like a snake's tongue.
Is that the way to treat kids? Do you use that on a child?
Well, I got that. I got it. Didn't do me any harm. The only thing I would say is that I disagree with corporal punishment if it's not used properly. I got it for things like getting my maths wrong, getting my spelling wrong, mundane little things.
All right, James, thank you.
Can I just say, teachers are professionals. They're not going to be interested in striking children to solve their problems in the classroom. It's an appalling suggestion.
Edwina Curry's going to be looking through the papers for us after midnight this evening. Of course, Edwina, you were the minister in the DHSS and you outlawed corporal punishment in special schools, didn't you?
I did indeed. I was a teacher before I became a Member of Parliament, and I'd been a school governor in a number of schools, including one for what we used to call educationally subnormal children. And when I became a minister, I discovered that we'd never actually outlawed corporal punishment for disabled children in special schools. It took me, I think, about half a day to get it done. It shouldn't happen where you've got trained people, trained staff. You don't need corporal punishment, and if you're using it, something is very, very badly wrong.
So what do you make of Michael Gove's other recommendations then? Getting tougher on kids with lines and cleaning up graffiti. Time to get tougher with the punishments. He's not talking about corporal punishment, Edwina.
No.
Do you think he's got it right?
He's not. Corporal punishment, you're quite right, Stephen, is a red herring. It's been introduced by other people, particularly in older generations.
But back then to the other story, which is going to be talked about all over the news tomorrow. Gove telling the Sun on Sunday, let's get teachers getting harsher on kids with lines and things. What do you think?
What he's done is he's introducing a new code of advice for teachers on discipline. He's reducing it down, he says, to 50 clear, well-written pages. We'll see when it actually comes out. And he's telling them what they can and they can't do.
But do you agree that we need to get tougher?
Yes, indeed. Many schools don't have problems. Let's be absolutely certain about this. In many schools, the children are well behaved. Schools of many different kinds, particularly where I am in Derbyshire. You look at the Ofsted reports, and over again, the kids are in a good environment, safe environment in school, and they're happy about it. But where there is a disruptive child, whatever the reasons for that child's misbehaviour, if he stays in that class, he's disrupting everybody's education, and all the kids are then going to learn is that if you're difficult, you're going to get a lot of attention. What you have to do is pull that child out, and if necessary, get them into a special unit for perhaps a short period of time and sort out what is their real problem.
But this story is about really tough punishments on them.
I once had to do lines at school. I hated it, absolutely hated it. And I behaved a little bit better after that.
So Edwina supports Michael Gove, Sonia?
Well, up to a point.
I mean, the problem is, as I said before, and that is we have to start looking at children as individuals rather than part of a cattle market. And the sooner we do that, the better, frankly, because this whole idea that we start excluding children just because they seem to be behaving in a different way. Perhaps they're behaving in a different way because the lessons bore the life out of them, which is not uncommon.
Well, I don't disagree with that, Sonia. That may well be the case. But in many cases now, what's happening in schools and in the classrooms is very much better than it was before. And I must admit, I'm one of those who had to learn by rote, but I'm also a critical thinker. I think the basis of your theories is completely wrong. On the other hand, we have to have.
What do you mean the basis of our theories wrong? What do you mean?
I listened to the lively discussion between Sonia and Anna May. I'm rather more on Anna May's side, I think, in this. In that you can't allow children just to run free. What they do, Sonia, is they wreck the education for other children if they're allowed to just run free and be disruptive.
Who suggested running free?
You did.
No, I never.
Yes, you did. I've written it down. I've quoted you here.
What I'm talking about expanding minds. I'm talking because what Gove wants to do and what you appear to be supporting is this whole idea of sort of militarising our school. Remember that they were muting before, quite recently, about this idea of soldiers going into the classroom.
No. You're moving goalposts all the time, Sonia. And as a former teacher, I'd ask you to stick to the point, which is in a school environment.
Edwina, you can ask me what you like. There's a whole lot of stuff I'd love to ask you, but this is clearly not the conversation for it. But I do hope
it's got nothing to do with soldiers coming into school. It's to do discipline, and discipline is all to do with concentrating, paying attention, listening hard, doing as you are asked, being responsible and respectful for other people, making sure that you create
being beaten into a certain shape so that it beats critical thinking out of you. That is exactly what the school system does to you. And this whole idea that you're a teacher, so
your daughter chose to go back into the school system.
She didn't choose to go back into the school system for the curriculum, though. She chose to go back in for the social life, not for the. And the problem is that there are.
Well, there you are. You're just defeating your own argument.
No, I'm really not. Trust me, I'm not. There are some good teachers, but there are many bad teachers.
I wouldn't trust you with my pet dog.
Edwina, trust me when I say I would trust you even less, because a whole lot of stuff that you are really culpable for, trust me, really, there are. This isn't the conversation for it, but one day you and I are going to have that conversation and we'll see what you're made of.
I'm really threatened, Sonia. I'll tell you what, we don't allow bullying in schools.
You just need to know that there is going to come a point when you're going to have to start answering questions. That's what you need to know.
More than happy. More than happy. Let me give you some idea. I went into a local school recently, Stephen, which had excellent Ofsted reports and even more. They did very well in the SATs test. Very, very well. I think a bit to their own surprise. 100% everywhere, where the children are coming out, doing extraordinarily well from very ordinary backgrounds, only about a mile or so from where I live. And I said to the head teacher, "What are you doing here? What's going on? It looks exactly the same as any other school I've ever been to." And he said, "Well, there are several things that we're doing. One is we actually, have 33 children in the class.
Okay.
They bring the children out. They try and make sure every single child gets
Sorry
an
to cut you off, Edwina, but we will hear more about this after 12 when you're looking through the papers. Sonia, I can't, because I'll tell you what, we're going to miss the news. I can't, but we will bring you back, I promise. Sonia, thank you. Anna May, thank you. Here's the news. At 11:31.